One of them wanted to be the security guy. He was a security guy.
Welcome. We have got to get you a fade button, dude.
The applause already said.
But it's got to be, no, it's got to fade. It's like we want to pretend people are actually in the studio watching us besides you.
It does fade, though, you know.
All right. Welcome to a something or other version of Security Guy Radio with my engineer in crime, Mr. Jarvis. Yes. How are you, Jarvis?
I'm good.
Now, I want to show you something. Been getting a few complaints, so I thought I'd bring in my new bulletproof vest here that I got right here. Half kidding. You know, I went to ISC West in Vegas, right?
Right.
So a guy I met there, bulletsafe.com. Bulletproof vests are traditionally about $900, and they're custom made and so on for police officers. This guy makes this version for guards, $299. Same level, same threat level 3, and stops, you know, a 44 Magnum.
Right.
So any guards, not any guards, all the guards listening to the show, check out bulletsafe.com. We're going to do a show on that from IC West. And I probably did about 10 shows when I was out there. It's really interesting stuff we're going to talk about, a lot of interesting products. But first I thought I would talk about statistics, right? So our March statistics are in. 58,421 listeners, unique listeners.
Really?
Pretty cool, all right?
That deserves some applause.
Yeah, that's that. Is that the applause that's just going to stop immediately? Okay. Now, okay, so here's some other stats, right? So of those podcasts now, you know how I always say, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Tumblr, Google+, YouTube, SoundCloud, Pinterest, the girl site. Remember I say that? Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to say 97 countries. I'm also going to say we're on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Spreaker now. Soon to be on iHeartRadio. Oh, wow. I'm crossing my fingers. I think we're very close to that. Now, Stitcher has 60,000 shows, and we rank at number 19,840.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good in the top third. Yeah. That's respectable for a new show, right? So I just want to kind of throw that out there, let everybody know to follow us on all those social media sites, because people always ask me, how do I hear the show? Because they can't listen live. Well, those are all the other places. So remember, if you have iTunes for Apple, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Spreaker, you can follow us. And remember, on the show, guard is a verb, not a noun. I protect you with my voice. And I'm the only post-certified radio show that can actually arrest you on air. You do know that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Because I went to the police academy. I'm still certified, all right? All right, so there's some interesting statistics. Now, the other thing I found out during my trip was this. You know what wearables are?
I've heard of them.
Okay. It's not your underwear, right? It's something else. It's where you...
Not underoos.
It's not underoos. Okay. It's not Garanimals. None of those type of clothing products you use to match your top to your bottom, because I know you're challenged there. But these are where we take technology and incorporate that into something you might wear on your wrist. Typically, wristwatch is a wearable, right? That's a classic one. They have things that are kind of incorporated into clothing and stuff. But one I think that people aren't aware of that's pretty much a brand new product is one called SmartSole, GPS SmartSole. And we're going to talk about this. This is actually a device. We're going to show it here. You can see that on the camera, right? Mm-hmm. This device goes in the sole, right? That's like Dr. Scholl kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Just fits in the bottom of your shoe, GPS tracking.
Wow.
Primarily used for initially Alzheimer's patients, right? Because that's a big problem. And so we're going to show that today. Now, I had personal experience with Alzheimer's. About 44 million people in the world have that. 1 in 4 with the disease have been diagnosed. But the other 4, they don't think they're diagnosed. They still have it, right? So it's a big problem. Mm. So I want to welcome Patrick
Bertania.
Bertania. There's a G in there. I'm sorry about that.
It's silent.
I knew I would blow it if I did that. But he's the CEO of GTX.com, and you make the GPS SmartSole, and I want to talk about that today. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
This is a really exciting product to me, and when I saw it, I said, "Oh, this is new. Hasn't this been done before?" Right? And because it's logical, right? But not all things in security are logical, obviously. So I'm glad you came. Tell us what GTX does, because GTX is in the wearables market, and this is one of your products we'll talk about today, but just give us a background on yourself and GTX.
Sure. So yeah, GTX is in the tracking and location monitoring business, and we develop an entire platform of products and hardware and software, connectivity, and we package that technology in different form factors. So our flagship product is the GPS SmartSole, and we put a lot of miniaturized GPS and cellular electronics and Bluetooth electronics inside of a wearable insole. So think Dr. Scholl's meets LoJack.
Right.
And the reason that we put all these electronics in footwear, multiple reasons, but primarily you have a lot of room to work with. You were mentioning
That's
wearables.
a good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
Okay, so a watch or a pendant or a necklace or something like that, you don't have that much room to work with underwear and socks. Secondly, you're protecting the electronics from the environment because your foot's on top of them. You've got a shoe surrounding it, so you're really encapsulating all those electronics. Again, if it's something on your wrist, that could easily be slammed, banged up, even taken off. And so it's really invisible technology, right? And our target market is people with cognitive memory disorders, so Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, traumatic brain injury.
Oh, autism. Good point. Yeah.
Autism.
Yeah.
3 million people in the United States have autism.
You know, I was reading the statistics on this for Alzheimer's, right? So the cost, there's about 41 million people affected at a cost worldwide of $605 billion,
Yep.
which is 1% of the entire world's gross domestic product.
If
41 million people cause that much of a cost to, dealing with it, right? I mean,
if it was its own economy, it'd be 18th in the world, ranked 18th in the world.
that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
And it's growing, right?
And it's growing. It's
Right.
44 million today, but if you add in dementia and if you add in traumatic brain injury and if you add in autism, the number's closer to 100 million. Our target market is 100 million people.
Oh, because that's right. Alzheimer's one market.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
wow.
But if you look at all the other ailments, and then the statistics are such that by the year 2050, that number is expected to grow to 277 million. Yeah, think
Worldwide.
about that. Worldwide. Yeah.
Well, that's 2/3 the population of the United States. That's unbelievable.
Well, no, by then it'll be the population of the United States, 277 million.
Oh man, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And this is really partly because of the baby boomer thing. We got a lot of older people, and who knows what causes this, but there seems to be just a rise in these sort of brain things.
Well, it's a perfect storm. You have people are living longer.
Right.
Due to the advancement of biomedicines and technology and so forth. So you're definitely living longer. People take care of themselves a lot more. They're especially here in Southern California. As you well know, people are very health conscientious. They eat a lot of tofu and nuts and fruits and yogurt, and they exercise. Right, a lot of people exercise, but unfortunately, that same generation did a lot of experimenting back in the day.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you have actually a perfect storm. You have people living longer and physically being capable to play tennis and golf and ride bikes, but that doesn't mean that their brain fully functions at the age of 70 and 80 plus.
Right. And I had personal experiences. Like I said, my grandmother, who lived to be about 90, well, one grandmother lived to be 100, fully cognitive, knew what she was doing, fell asleep one day, didn't wake up. What a way to live, right?
What a way to go also.
What a way to go. No, talking about covered wagon stuff, she's born in 1888. She remembered everything. It was amazing. My other grandmother, my mom's side, pretty good up to about 95. Then she fell out of bed at the hospital, bonked her noggin, and went into a state of dementia for about a year and a half. Couldn't remember things, falsely remembered things, made up stuff. And then my uncle, this guy was in the Air Force program, the astronaut program, flew fail-safe. He ran 10 miles a day till he was 75 years old. He could run circles around anybody. And one day, couldn't open the door, couldn't write a check. Very sad. And it took about a year and a half, we saw him deteriorate. And I've dealt with this where I've had to, for lack of a better term, babysit the adults or, help them in the middle of the night or take care of them. And this is very, very stressful on families. And I think because of the economy the way it is, now we're seeing more families living together where mom or dad are living with the parents, right, to take care of them, to save money and things like that. So I think this affects a lot of people more than people realize. And it's
the bleed over in terms of the caregivers, in terms of the stress, is it's unmeasurable because they're the ones that are burdened with the 24/7 monitoring.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could tell you story after story after story that we've heard, but for the most part, the common theme is that there's no rhyme and reason. There is no, they normally wander at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or it's every Tuesday, so you literally cannot even go to the bathroom and come out and expect that your loved one will be there. They could just run out the door in a nanosecond.
My neighbor, and I won't say her name, but she listens. I hope she's listening tonight. They have her mother-in-law lives there, and she's 90-something years old. And exactly what you're saying happens. She literally is a prisoner in her house.
Yes.
Because she has to be so diligent about making sure that something doesn't happen and mom doesn't get outside. And she has gotten out a couple times. It's happened, right? And with this, I think you would just take a huge burden off. In other words, you're still going to be diligent. But on the off chance something happens, you're not going to then panic because now you have some recourse to find.
Well, it's exactly the point. You still have to rely on responsible caretaking.
Still got to be caretaker, right?
You still have to be a caretaker. So this does not, no technology alleviates you from those responsibilities. But when something goes awry, and the statistics show that 60% of people with memory disorders will wander.
60%?
60%.
Wow.
Yeah, so when you look at that number of 100 million people that are afflicted worldwide, 60 million of them will wander repetitively. All right?
Oh, it's repetitively, not just on occasion.
It's not just a...
Oh, wow.
Well, repetitively could mean 5 times a year.
Yeah, whatever.
But if you're the police officer that gets that 911 call, whether it's 5 times a week or 5 times a year, you have to go out there and look for that person.
Yeah.
So you're talking. So when you brought in the cost. So the cost of the caregiver, of the municipalities that have to go and deal with these situations is enormous. And the stress is unbelievable. And what happens is if you don't find that person, this is another very important statistic, if you don't find that person within 24 hours, and as being law enforcement, you know this, the first 2 to 6 hours are mission critical in any missing person. And then as time goes on, the likelihood of finding that person diminish, and the likelihood of finding that person alive and well diminish, and so forth, right? So statistically, and this is FBI stats, if not found, a missing person not found within 24 hours, there's a 50% chance that they will be found dead.
50%, that's 50%, very high.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours is a blink of an eye.
In this demographic,
right.
You have to understand, this demographic, if you're 75, 80 years old and you have Alzheimer's, or even if you're 15 years old and you have autism, all right, you aren't as well equipped physically and mentally to deal with the environment.
And you can be a victim very easily, be taken advantage of.
You can be taken advantage of. You may be on other medications. So if you don't have access to those medication, that could be a problem there. The likelihood of you left your house without the proper clothing, right? So if it gets cold or wet, I mean, you're more susceptible. An 80%, a 70 or 80-year-old person is more susceptible to cold than, let's say, you and I, right? So those are the reasons that 50% of them not found within 24 hours could be found dead.
And your cost, and I'm a little rusty on this, but let's say Burbank PD, we got 75 cops. It's 5-6 square miles. It's an average-sized police department, right? Mm-hmm. But the cost to roll out, all the day shift and bring in some dogs and whatever is, these are critical missing people, is what we call them, right? Mm-hmm. Critical missing means we don't just take a report and say, thanks, we'll call you in the morning. We get out and look, and we do what we can, right? And that cost can be anywhere from, a couple $1,000 for a couple cops hunting up to like $10,000, $20,000. Yeah. You roll out the whole police department for 10 hours. That's a huge cost.
The statistics, again, and I was told this by multiple police departments that we've talked to, from New York Police Department, largest police department in the country, down to San Diego Search and Rescue or San Luis Obispo, so smaller, more regional police departments, but they've all confirmed, small or large, it's on average, it's about $10,000 to $11,000.
On average?
On average.
Wow.
On average. Now, if you have a very severe missing person case where it's days on end or weeks on end, you have to put a helicopter up in the sky. Now you're going into hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And I don't need to tell you again that what rolls downhill. So that person isn't found or is found dead, or the mayor gets the phone calls, and then they go to the commissioner, and then to the captain, and then it all rolls downhill. And so at the end of the day, why not empower? I mean, that's what we believe is so advantageous about this product, is you're empowering the caregivers to just pull out their smartphone. Mom, dad, junior, whoever went missing, they're not in the house, they're not in wherever they're supposed to be. Pull out your smartphone, push a button, and you'll know exactly where they are.
So let's take a look at this thing real quick. Jarvis, tell me if I'm in frame here. I think I am. So this just looks like anything I buy at Walgreens. It's very similar.
Yeah,
Exactly the same. You can't even tell. And the technology is right here. And by the way, if you're listening to this on podcast, go to YouTube. You can see this. But it looks like a traditional sole insert, padded. And this is waterproof, which is unique, right?
The materials themselves are waterproof.
They're sealed.
And all sealed. And then the unit itself is encapsulated in a epoxy material. And the reason for that is when we first developed the product, we went to go visit some autistic foundations, and they all told us that children with autism are attracted to water.
I've heard that.
They have
Yes,
a
I've
natural
heard that.
tendency
Yes.
to be attracted to water. And so they said, a tracking device to be efficient and effective for people with autism, has to be waterproof. So you can actually stick that in a swimming pool for 6 hours and it'll still work.
That's fabulous. And to charge it, it goes on a pad. You don't have to plug it in. You just place it on the pad.
Well, the pad needs to be plugged in.
Sorry. The plug needs to be padded.
Right.
But we're not plugging anything into the sole,
nothing's-
which, for somebody that's challenged might be difficult to hit a device. But we're just going to place this down on a charge. It takes about 2 hours to charge up?
Yeah, a couple of hours to charge.
And how long is it? 3 days it lasts?
Yeah, 2 to 3 days.
Okay. So the caregiver just needs to get in the routine of doing that.
Yeah, every couple of days, just get that done. It's got a motion sensor, so when not in use, it goes to sleep.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
it's kind of like you're just like the sleep mode on your phone or your computer.
And GPS nowadays is so sophisticated that we can actually tell altitude. So if someone got into a high-rise building, wandering around, or got lost in a high-rise building, we would know maybe approximately what floor they're on, maybe.
You could tell, again, depending on the windows and the availability of the satellites and so forth. But GPS gives you latitude and longitude. It gives you altitude. It gives you bearing. And it gives you speed.
And nowadays, this stuff's accurate within 10 feet, right? I mean, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah. We advertise that it's accurate within 37 feet, so 10 meters or so.
You should be able to handle finding person within 37 feet, yeah.
If you put it into context, and believe it or not, we actually have some people that don't like that answer. They expect it to be accurate within a foot. But, put into context, you'll be able to find somebody anywhere in the world.
Right.
So if you live in Los Angeles, and let's say your mother were to live in Buffalo, New York, right? You'd be able to pull out your phone and know exactly where she is within 37 feet. I think that's acceptable.
I think that's acceptable, absolutely. Jarvis, do you think that's acceptable? I think that is. So we have some of these in here that are, you have some tags that kind of go, like
those are for
tag.
medical ID.
Yeah.
So for people again that are seniors or children with autism, you want to keep all their medical records, and that way that's a complementary product. So if they are found, first responder can actually scan the QR code on that tag and then get the full medical records of that person.
Very cool.
So they're allergic to certain drugs, or they're on diabetic or epileptic or things like that.
And I've known some people that have autistic children, and here's a challenge that I hear time and time again. Parent buys them a phone. And these, by the way, one person is a high-functioning autistic. I think it's called, what's the antisocial one? Where you're kind of Asperger's. So high-functioning, but still a little antisocial. And they won't carry the phone. They don't remember to carry the phone. They don't want to carry the phone. I'm not sure which one it is.
Or they'll even drop the phone. They'll give it away.
They'll
trade it with somebody for an ice cream or something. So,
but very few people are going to go out in the snow in Chicago without shoes on, regardless of what your level of mental competency is. And so I think this is a great idea. Now, some of them are marked, SmartSole on the bottom. And then we have, as we'd say in police work, an unmarked sole, okay?
Undercover
sole. And when I asked you about this, of course, the answer was obvious after I heard it. This is not the only application, although Alzheimer's and people with mental disabilities is of course the best application, right?
Yeah.
But I could see
it's the needs market.
It's a needs market.
It's the needs market. You really need to have a solution for these people because, like I said, 100 million people worldwide, 60% of them, that means 60 million of them wander. So you need a solution for that.
Oh, yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah.
But
I got an executive, and I got to keep track of him. Because that's just what I got to do in security, because I can't let this guy disappear or get kidnapped or something like that. So this is not executives. Police officers could be an application, right? Maybe undercover cops.
Undercover, yeah.
Talk about some of the things that you apply this to.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of interest from high-level executives. We've had interest from media companies. We've actually had the State Department call us.
Oh, like a news crew.
News crews.
Oh, because news crews have been attacked or got lost and stuff.
Kidnapped,
yeah,
beheaded.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we've had a lot of that happen.
Sure.
On any given day, there's probably 10,000, if not more, news crews worldwide.
10,000. Wow.
Well, think about Reuters.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
AP and Fox and all the, when
Oh, you forgot one. Security Guy Radio.
Oh, yeah, of
Jarvis,
course.
he forgot Security Guy Radio.
Security Guy Radio.
Put one of these in my shoe right away.
When you're out tooling around in the Middle East, we want to make sure that we know where you are. So State Department, military, but not for soldiers. Okay, soldiers are carrying around a 150-pound pack. They got a whole bunch of stuff in that pack, and they got electronics and all that. But all the support staff that in Afghanistan, in Iraq, that are not military,
but civilian support staff,
civilian support staff. But the military, the Pentagon wants to know where all those people are.
Sure.
So we've had a lot of conversations with military operations in that regard. But high-level executives, I mean, a lot of these guys have key man insurance. They have perhaps their own security teams. I'm sure you're aware of some people like that.
Some of under Sarbanes-Oxley over the years, what have changed is that where the corporation used to pay for a lot of these kind of quasi-private things, now they don't.
Right.
And the executive has to have their security paid for out of their own pocket, and that would entail, the corporation makes some recommendations, the experts, right? But I could see this where an executive would want to have some kind of personal tracking. And by the way, for their families.
Sure.
I mean, executives are targets, and so are their families, right?
Yeah.
So these are all kind of things that are passed. What I like about this, and maybe you can help me with this, Verizon, you see this dumb phone, I like to call it? It hardly ever works, all right? I'm a heavy user. And if my GPS works 75% of the time, I'm happy. But one reason it doesn't is because I have 500 other things going on here, right? They're taking up signal and battery and stuff. I like this because it's standalone. It's on its own system. And if I know this is tied to the phone as a smart app, but really, the app doesn't make this thing function.
No.
Whereas
all the guts are built
right.
in. Everything that's in your phone is in there.
Yeah, Google's GPS functions off Google in my phone, and if this isn't working, I don't have any GPS.
That's right.
But if my phone goes down with this app, I can log into a desktop. I can log in from across the country.
That's right.
I can find connectivity to this device, and I like that it's standalone that way.
That's right.
Now, tell us why you didn't utilize this as a marker for the phone, because you could do that, right? And this could be just a tag that ties to your phone GPS system. Well, it's standalone.
Right. The whole reason, I mean, it would have been a lot less expensive, a lot easier to develop.
Right.
But then you're relying on somebody always having a phone on them. So let's start with our target market. Anybody that has a memory disorder, you can't rely on them having a phone. A 65, 75, 80-year-old person, you most likely will not be walking around with a smartphone.
Well, I can't get my dad to answer his phone. He's 80 years old and he's a pretty smart guy. It's just a cultural thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
The high-level executive syndrome situation, again, you get caught by the bad guys, they're going to pat you down, they're going to take your phone right away. So this being a self-contained technology really has the benefits not only from the covert or undercover aspect, but also because it doesn't do anything else. It doesn't text, doesn't email, it doesn't Facebook, it doesn't Instagram, it doesn't do all those great things that we do with our smartphones. All it does is keeps track of where you are and reports that information back to a central portal. And because of that, that's all it does, it can sustain 3 days of battery life. Your phone will never last 3 days.
Mine doesn't last 3 hours sometimes. It just drains.
So,
yeah. Now, I'm going to assume, and tell me if I'm wrong, that I can set up a geofence around my house so when Grandma starts walking away, it's going to send me a text that says, Grandma just made it out the front door?
100%.
Okay, that's good. And 100%. You can make that
100%.
geofence as big as you want it to. You can make it the neighborhood. You can make it as large or as small as you want
200 yards minimum, and there is no maximum limit.
Oh, 200 yards minimum.
Yeah.
Okay, so I couldn't draw it around the bedroom.
No.
But the house, a couple houses, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And the reason you could draw it down, but we always suggest that you set it to 200 meters, because or else you're going to be so inundated with alerts.
Right.
And eventually, when it's going to matter, you're going to maybe not pay as much attention.
No, exactly.
It's got to matter. So if Mom went from the bedroom to the bathroom, to the bathroom to the kitchen, to the kitchen to the backyard, even to the next door neighbor's house, do you really want to be notified every 5 minutes of that? But if Mom walks 2 blocks away from the house, which is about what 200 meters is, then you should get notified.
Yeah, and what I like about it is you could also draw a geofence around, let's say,
a lake.
Specifically dangerous areas.
That's right. A freeway.
A pool, freeway.
Right.
Like, hey, that's a critical way. We got to
We heard a gut wrenching story last year, where a woman in Florida every day would get up, walk out of her house, and make a right turn, and 2 blocks away would be a little shopping area where she would buy some groceries or medication. And one day she got up, and instead of making a right turn, she made a left turn, and she kept walking down the street, and she walked for 8 miles until it dead ended into a lake. She walked right into the lake and got eaten by an alligator.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
how sad.
Yeah, very sad, very tragic, very sad.
And she was impaired in some way, and she
had dementia.
And
just got disoriented and just didn't realize it. We just heard a story recently that a man in the Northeast during the winter got up out of bed, middle of the night, just put his shoes on, but he was still in his pajamas. But he did put his shoes on, which was interesting. And I'll get to that. There's a reason for that. It's just because it's like it's called procedural memory.
Oh yeah, your core basics.
Putting your shoes on was like the second thing we were ever taught.
Right.
Potty trained and putting your shoes on we were taught at a very young age. So that kind of stays with you. But anyway, this person put his shoes on in his pajamas, walked out the door, and they found him 2 days later frozen to death. He was just frozen, leaning up against a wall.
Oh man,
a tree.
Man.
Yeah. So we hear stories like this all the time. But yeah, interestingly enough, people do definitely put their shoes on before they walk out of the house.
Now, what was your brainstorm on this? I mean, you're in that business. You're looking for ways to use GPS technology. What was the spark that said, you know what, bingo, we gotta attack this Alzheimer's market? There's always something. It's either 3 o'clock in the morning you sit up or you're watching TV. Something always happens, right?
Well, we originally were going to come out with this product for, I referred earlier to the needs market.
Right.
We were originally going to come out with this product for the wants market, for moms that want this for their kids.
Oh, okay.
We just thought, okay, what mom's not going to want to know where their kid is at all times?
Makes
right?
sense, yeah.
Okay. So we were getting ready to launch, and I received a phone call from a professor at George Mason University, Professor Andrew Call, and who teaches, who's a world-renowned expert on seniors and technology for seniors. He's just a pioneer in this space. And he called me up and he introduced himself and he said, "What do you know about Alzheimer's and dementia?" And I said, not much. And we spent 2 hours on the phone, and he started reading off statistics to me, just like you did tonight at the beginning of the show. And I was so taken back and overwhelmed and couldn't believe the numbers when he said to me, millions of people have this. 60% of them will wander. If not found within a day, they're found dead. I mean, and he said, you've got to do something for that demographic. And I remember I called our board of directors and our advisors, our inner circle.
Because you're ready to launch the job product. You're ready to go.
Yeah, and we sat around and said, maybe we got to rethink all of this. And we retooled and we regrouped and we refocused and decided to come out with, and really hyper-focus on this market.
Now, interestingly, you don't really offer a child product now.
We don't.
You don't have something that size. If you got a kid with size 10 feet like my daughter, maybe that would work. But
right.
Most part, not the small infant sizes or smaller sizes.
So we originally, our first generation product was a shoe. It was a GPS shoe.
Oh, a whole shoe.
A whole
okay.
shoe. So we had a lot more room to put electronics. Yeah. And then when we went to the insole, we're very limited. We still have to make it comfortable. It still has to
really work.
It has to work and so forth. So today we can go down to about a child size, age 10 or 11. Now, age and foot size don't always correlate,
right?
But roughly, an 8-year-old with a big foot or a 14-year-old with a little foot,
right?
But, roughly a 10 or 11-year-old.
Well, that's still a lot of the child market, though. I mean, it's not infant, but I mean, there's other things for infants too. There's other products that are more infant-centric. Yeah, because the infant's not going to walk away. That's more for kidnapping.
We tell
which doesn't happen very much.
We tell that to people all the time. Until your child's going to first grade. They're not. You should be around your child. You shouldn't be letting your 4 or 5-year-old kid just running around.
Right.
So they don't really need this. And even at the age of 6, 7, and 8, for the most part, this is when they become tweens. 10, 11 years old, 12 years old. First, at that age is when parents start letting them potentially go to the mall or go to a friend's house after school by themselves. Right? I mean, up until 7 or 8, you're not really letting your kids out by themselves. So I think today, 10 or 11 is that age threshold. By the end of this year, we're looking to come out with a smaller size. So we'll potentially be able to address kids that are 8, 9 years old. And then by next year, we'll get down into the 5 and 6 year olds. But again, I just don't see that market being that. I think it's more of a novelty. A lot of parents are going to say, I want it. And then after a while, they may realize.
I'm with you on that. I mean, it's horrific, and there are child kidnappings and child abductions, and a lot of children disappear.
But the statistics are
it's
very
different.
small.
It's different compared to 60 million people walking around the earth and not know where they're going.
That's right.
Difference.
That's a real statistic.
Yeah.
If you look at, there's 1 million kids that go missing every year in the United States, but 950,000 of them are runaways, are
a parent abduction.
Parent abduction.
Stealing, parent stealing.
So, an actual real kidnapping, I think it's maybe even less than 10,000 a year. So, if you're the family, if you're the parents of one of those 10,000 children, it's horrific. But when you're building a business, you got to think about, we like 100 million people and 60 million of them are potential customers.
It's fair. Listen, I'm all for capitalism. I'm a terrible capitalist, by the way, but I'm all for it, right? So I think that's fine. That's a fun argument. And now, this is probably a size 10. But
they're trimmed to fit.
They're trimmed now.
So you trim them.
You trim them yourself, just like a regular insole, right?
When you get them, you get
just don't trim this blue part.
That's
here.
right. You get them with some lines on the back, and then it says you can trim down to don't trim below this number or this space. Here it is. You can see that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right.
Very nice.
So you see, there's a do not trim below that line.
Right. Very light. I mean, it's just as light as a regular insole.
Yeah, it's
lighter than
Dr. Scholl's meets LoJack. I mean, it's really what it is.
Very cool. Now, let's talk about the connection to law enforcement. So, here's how police departments work. If I take this to the chief and say, Chief, I think it's a great idea. You're trying to sell it to the chief. The chief's going to say, well, Patrick, I can't just go endorse a product because we're public servants, and that's all fair.
Yeah,
all right?
Absolutely.
Although back in the day, we also have a duty to help people, and sometimes we'd give referrals for
protect and to serve.
That's right. So sometimes I'd pull out a brochure from the state that says, here's a rape victim safe house, here's a place you can go to get detox. So we do offer those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But police associations are quasi-private organization of their members, and they're used more for maybe public activities and supporting the community. The community gives them money and works with them and stuff.
Right.
I could see a lot of police associations looking at this. Because, I mean, listen, if I was a cop, I would probably put this in my shoe. I know that might sound crazy, but I'm one of those crazy guys that goes over the board on stuff, right? But for nothing else, I know I've gone to the same house before as a police officer several times because grandma walked away or grandpa walked away or something happened. And if I had a resource to say, you know what, I'm not endorsing this, I'm not selling it, but you might want to call these guys here at SmartSole, and it might be something that can help you.
Sure.
And I think in this day and age, like we were talking in the green room, even if I set that recommendation, most people are going to say, yeah, thanks. But they're still going to get on Google and they're going to check things out themselves.
Absolutely.
And they're going to look for competitive prices and competitive products and things like that.
And reviews and all that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that you're absolutely right that there's a lot of bureaucracy that's wrapped around police departments. But we've spoken to enough already. And like I said, from the largest ones like NYPD and down to smaller ones like San Diego or San Luis Obispo, they've all told, and by the way, I mentioned those names because they've tested the product, they've really gotten themselves acclimated to the technology and how it works and so forth. And what they all tell us is that this is so beneficial to their day in and day out work.
To them, it's selfish.
To them, yeah. Because at the end of the day, they want to go out and stop crimes from happening. And not only does the cost, that $10,000, $11,000 cost per 911 call is, obviously pretty
it's
pretty
a serious
stiff.
matter because police officers are getting laid off now because there's not enough money.
Yeah.
Never happened in my day, but it's common.
Right. So I think everyone's aware that there's limited budgets out there, A. So if the departments could save their money for other things, I think that's a lot more important for them. B, what I've heard, and you can probably corroborate this, is the unintended consequences that happen while there's two detectives driving around. There's a 7-Eleven that gets robbed. There's a home intrusion. Because you have less police officers doing what they're supposed to be doing and doing something else.
Right.
So that gets factored into it. So at the end of the day, if we can provide a tool for the police departments that will enable and empower the community to go out and find their loved one that's missing, that's one less 911 call, that's one less $10,000 bill, and that's perhaps one less home invasion or carjacking or 7-Eleven being robbed.
Well, it's one more win, too, because you're going to get the person back immediately.
That's right.
And by the way, I think most of the time the family's probably going to be able to handle this. It's an extreme condition. Maybe it's a blizzard and the family can't go out in their night robe. But
wouldn't it be great if you got
police
the
can
call
say, "Here
and
it is,
said,
go get him."
Yeah, hello 911, can you go find my father? He's on the corner of First and Main, right? As opposed to hello 911, can you go find my father? Oh, I don't know where he is. He's just somewhere out there in the blizzard. So there's a real serious advantage to, again, empowering the caregivers. And, we're talking a lot about money, but what about the emotional stress? You said you've experienced it yourself. I know plenty of people that have experienced it. The thought of calling the police and then just waiting for them to, as opposed to you just get in your car and go and get grandpa and bring him home. It's just that feeling of being able to do it yourself. This is a do-it-yourself, generation, and that's it.
So my neighbor, who is basically landlocked in their house because of their parent and rarely gets to go out and do something, right? I could see this being used where, maybe she can go to the store for an hour. Because if this thing doesn't go off and doesn't activate, everything's fine. And if it does, she's 2 minutes away.
That's right. And you could put a geofence around the store so you can get an alert when she gets to the store.
Right.
Right? And then you would get an alert if she wanders back out of the store. And if she wanders back, if she leaves the store but goes in the opposite direction, you get in your car and go get her.
Yeah.
Again, you're saving having to make that 911 call.
What else does I'm using my imagination here. So Mr. Jarvis comes to mind. Mr. Jarvis, I'm wondering if your wife might want to put this in your shoes. I don't think so. I don't think that would be necessary for you. You're a man of good moral character.
No.
But let's say we had a less than trusting wife or spouse or girlfriend. I could see them buying these just as, hey, honey, I got you some new insoles for that conference you're going to in Vegas next week, and I thought you might want to try them out.
Sure.
Anybody, have you had any stories about that yet?
We do get stories like that, but again, they're far and few in between. First of all, you have privacy issues when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. So that might be an invasion of that person's privacy.
Yeah, that's an absolute. So, when it comes to if it's your mother or father that has Alzheimer's, your child that has autism, you're the official caregiver.
Right.
Those privacy issues, you're their caregiver. But yeah, putting a tracking device on a person unbeknownst to them, I believe there would be some criminal violations.
So let's talk about that. So you're in how many countries?
We currently we have distributors in 20 countries, and we're selling in close to 35 countries.
Okay. Have you ever come across a country that you can't sell in maybe, or it's more difficult because the privacy thing is an issue?
Yes.
Regardless of Alzheimer's or not, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So Germany.
Don't say China, though. I don't want my internet interrupted. But go ahead, everybody else.
We don't sell in China.
Okay, good.
We do not sell in China.
Oh, there's a market, boy.
It's a big market, but we don't sell in China as of yet. So Germany is one of those markets that privacy is a very big issue.
Interesting.
And so we've had to, and they're equivalent to HIPAA. So there's a lot going on there, and we have to navigate. Now, we are selling in Germany. We're doing really well. We have a great partner based out of Germany, a good distribution partner, and our telecommunication, our SIM card, because there is a SIM card in here. Just like a phone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we have an agreement with Telefonica, which is the world's fifth largest wireless provider in the world globally, and they're Spain headquartered, but we deal with their company out of they have an affiliate out of Germany, so out of Munich. So
so you say there's a German equivalent to HIPAA, which is our health.
Yes.
Now, that's where they have the privacy issue in a medical context.
Yes, because
not a private home. A private home could buy this, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But if it's in a kind of a medical setting. The other thing is we need to keep the data. Like in Germany, for example, all our data is stored in Germany.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Canada is another country. We have to have all the data stored in Canada.
Huh. So you have to set up servers there for your. Okay.
It can't be the servers can't be in the United States. And again, these are their compliance.
I could see that's HIPAA. Reasonable to me.
Yeah. But the whole privacy issue, specifically privacy, goes away when you're talking about you're their caregiver. You're cleaning that person. You're feeding that person. You're giving that person medication. So let me get this straight. But you can't know where they are if they wander off.
Right.
So the argument sort of falls apart, right?
So
you could administer medication to the person, but you can't look on your phone to see where they are if they leave the house.
So you do sell in Germany. You just have a couple of hurdles you got to comply with.
Any
countries you just can't. They won't just allow it.
No, so far no. We've had to put data there. Like I said, Canada, we've had to put data there. Germany, we had to put our servers there. Denmark, Sweden. We do really well in all of Northern Europe.
Now let's talk about data protection and how you handle it in the United States, because we have an issue with that here.
Sure.
And we're far afield. I mean, we want Apple to crack the phone, but we don't really want Apple to crack our phone.
Right.
And we're all over the place on this, right? But I could see this being used in an incorrect way, just like anything can be. Mm-hmm. So just talk about how you encrypt it, how you keep track of it, what you store, what you don't store, that kind of thing.
So great question. So we do protect our servers with 286 encryption. We have a very redundant and robust firewall on the servers. So from a hardware perspective, if someone were to get into through our firewalls and actually into our databases, we have the content of that database offset. And what I mean by that, you're familiar with an Excel spreadsheet?
Sure.
And so you know how in an Excel spreadsheet, everything's linear.
Right.
You start with stuff in column A, stuff in column B. So the way we did it is think of an Excel spreadsheet where the person's name is in column A, their location is in column B, their UDID number or unique ID number is in column C. So it's not linear.
Okay.
So if someone were to hack into the database, you can't just go across and scroll and go, oh, Chuck lives at this address, here's his unique ID, and here's where he is today.
Oh, that's good.
Because where you are will be somewhere in the database that's not at all correlated to you. And we have a special algorithm that connects all those dots.
You got a primary key that you know whose record it goes through. Yeah, okay,
but the
that's
record
very smart.
itself from an average, and if you really think about it, even if a really, really, really sophisticated hacker, because that's what it would take.
Right.
Because nothing's impossible. Look,
right.
the Pentagon can get hacked. We can certainly get hacked. But we've put in a tremendous amount of safeguards. But my point is, so someone goes through all the trouble of hacking us to find out where your grandpa is?
Well,
where are they going to get at?
I have an evil genius brain, and if I was a bad guy, we'd all be in big trouble, right? So I would say, in the case of, I'm just throwing this off the top of my head, but, sometimes Grandpa is a multi-billionaire, right? And where Grandpa is or isn't, and who's taking care of him and who's not taking care of him like they should, can become an issue. And maybe somebody goes in and deletes the data because now there's no record that he wandered off because, look, I'm a perfect caregiver. Well, in fact, you're not taking care of him. We're going to take you off as a trustee. So I could see that be valuable, in especially elderly cases that tend to have estates. Usually.
You really are the evil.
Think of it, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not. Listen, like I said, the Pentagon can get hacked.
But
Sony Studios can be hacked. We do everything we can to mitigate and minimize the potential.
Now, let me ask you
threat.
this question: why do we need to save it for any period of time? In other words, if Grandpa didn't wander off today, aren't we kind of done with worrying about that?
Okay, so it's really interesting. We get more people want that data saved, so that we can study Grandpa's patterns.
Good point.
Okay. Does he have a tendency to go somewhere specific? Or autistic children do.
Oh, very good.
So if we can learn that and study that, we can ultimately maybe anticipate where they're going to go. So that's one. Two, for legal reasons, just to be able to.
Oh, you're showing you're a good caregiver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, that's good.
To prove that we've been monitoring Grandpa, right? We know where he's been. So there's a combination of reasons why, but we can delete that data daily if we wanted to.
Right.
We store it typically for 90 days. So someone, if you wanted to find out where was Grandpa last month.
Well, it might be important to where he's going. I mean, maybe the battery dies, and we have a pattern now that he's always gone here on Wednesday. So.
That's right.
All right, that's a good point. Okay. Right. Now, you got some stuff coming up with law enforcement. I want to look into my notes here real quick. Last week, you launched the Trust to Protect campaign. And there was another campaign as well you mentioned with cops. What was that one called?
CopSync.
CopSync. Yeah, tell us about those initiatives. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so we signed a strategic alliance with a company called CopSync. They're based out of Texas, and they were founded by police officers. And years ago, they did a routine stop, and one of the partners got shot and killed. The car they pulled over had just committed a robbery, and it had been on record that he had said that next cop that pulls him over, he was going to shoot him. And anyway, the guy got pulled over in a different county. And so they had no way, the officers that had dealt with this person in a separate county had no way of getting that information to the other officers in the other county. So what the guys at CopSync did is they retired from the force, and they put together a network, a cloud-based platform, so that they can store information and detail actionable information. This person just robbed a store. Stuff more beyond there. Typically, right now, as you well know, information that's stored in law enforcement databases is criminal convictions.
Yes, but criminal convictions are a public record.
Right.
But a non-conviction, an interaction with you, is not necessarily
it's not
public.
stored. That's
right. It's not stored because it can't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's called RAPS. A rap sheet means you were stopped, but we didn't convict you or arrest you.
That's right.
Right. But we know about your history.
That's right. So if in that routine traffic stop, imagine that person made some derogatory comment, said something, made a threat or whatever, and that was recorded and stored, and then somehow or other that's attached to that person's license plate. So the next time that he gets pulled over, the officer that's pulling him over doesn't just see whether or not this car is registered, has a valid registration, but it links him to Joe, the driver of this car. It could be hostile, could be carrying, something.
Well,
so
which he displayed in public, because saying anything to a police officer is public.
That's right.
No expectation of privacy, so I can see why that's completely legal.
That's right.
I haven't played a lawyer on the radio yet. But I'm just saying that's probably legal. Let me say that again. It might be legal, right, Joe? Let me go backwards a little bit. All right. Makes sense.
Right. So, CopSync, so the reason why we formed this alliance is kind of twofold. So one is they go after, their target market is police departments.
Right.
So they sell a software as a service platform.
So our software is going to attach to their dispatch system and allow you to keep notes in there and sync it
right.
together. Okay, makes sense. All right.
And then they can share that information over non-traditional communication protocols. So they're knocking on the doors of police departments. And so one of the things that we're going to do is, because we have a back-end platform that's location-based, we're going to let CopSync's platform tap into our back-end platform. So now police officers in a department can not only communicate with each other, but also can know where they all are once they leave their patrol car. Because patrol cars are being monitored through GPS. But once you leave your car,
that's right.
There's no way to know. So if you're carrying a phone or a device on you, then we'll know where the police officer is. It'll all be funneled in through their platform. And then secondly, we go to knock on doors of a lot of police departments, not because we want to sell them something, but we want to create awareness.
Right.
So we want to let them know that we have this great product called the SmartSoles, and most of them recognize that. And so, but some police departments want security. They want the ability to have that communication be compliant with some of the tools that they use. So we can then offer up the CopSync platform and say our products plug into the CopSync platform. So if you're already a CopSync customer, or if you're thinking about getting it, then you can get our product, and now you can not only see your officers, but all the 911 calls that you make for missing persons, you can then recommend our product. I mean, we've had certain police departments, I'm not going to mention who, but we've had certain police departments go out and get grants already.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah.
They're saying, look, $10,000 for a search and rescue, or I buy one of these things for $300 and I give them away, I'm $9,700 in the plus.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so if the federal government's willing to give, or the state government, the state is willing to give us a grant for this, $5,000-$10,000, they can buy 50, 60, 80 pairs and give them out. That's the difference of potentially 50 or 60 $10,000 911 calls.
Well, and by the way, they know, a good police department now with all the metrics they have, they know how many wandering Alzheimer's patients they've had.
Oh, yeah.
They know how many critical missing, autism kids. They know that numbers.
They absolutely.
So let's say Burbank PD has had 10 of those, and they each cost $2,000 each on average. And I'm going to spend $1,200 with you instead, and I'm going to save money. Yeah, it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
right? And then they're not
remember,
endorsing a product; they're just using this. You know what? This would be used just like I would buy a new mace, a taser. It's a tool.
That's
it's
right.
a tool for me to help the community.
It's a technological tool.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they can do whatever. They can either buy them and give them away. They can recommend them. They can get the state involved. So for people that are low income, for example,
Well, right.
we are covered by the Medicaid reimbursement code. So police
Oh, that's
departments-
interesting.
Yeah, so the police departments can interact with the community and with this tool, these GPS SmartSoles, in a multitude of ways, whichever way is best for them. Again, we're not trying to sell the police departments. We're just trying to create awareness and let them know that there's something there that can really help them and help save a lot of lives as well.
Oh yeah, a lot of lives.
So last week the CEO of CopSync, Ron, and myself were in New York and in New Jersey, and we were part of the Trust to Protect campaign, and also part of the Blue Alert Foundation. So Trust to Protect was created by a good friend of mine, Jack Brewer, who is a UN ambassador. He's a retired NFL player. He's a businessman and philanthropist. And he put together, I think we have a video perhaps coming up.
All right.
Jack, yeah. So he put together a foundation called Trust to Protect, which basically is a way to divide, to bridge the divide between law enforcement and the communities out there. We hear a lot about lives matter, and it should be all lives matter.
Right.
Blue lives, white lives, black lives. It should really be about the community needs to understand as best they can that law enforcement is out there working tirelessly to help and protect us.
Everybody.
And everybody, and we really do need them out there, and we got to show our respect. So Trust and Protect is a really good cause that we're behind, and we're in New York for that launch, and then last May, President Obama signed into law the Blue Alert Initiative. So the Blue Alert Initiative, think like Amber Alerts on the freeway for
Right.
missing kids. So the Blue Alert Initiative is that informs law enforcement agencies if an officer has been shot, and gives out description. Just like, again, an Amber Alert, it's Susie's been missing. We think Joe took her, and he's in a red pickup truck. This is Officer Mahoney has been shot. We think it's this bad guy that shot him, and he's in this vehicle. So it's the same concept, and they're operating in a multitude of states right now. And so
That's important because
Yeah.
if you shoot a police officer, the last place you want to be is anywhere near that. And a lot of times they try to get out of the state as fast as they can.
That's right.
And, communication, LAPD is going to put out a teletype, or that's old technology, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for that to filter down, maybe
Yes.
a day or two, but maybe the guy's driving right past us, and if we had a quicker alert system, we might know.
So when you look at what's happening with the Blue Alert Foundation, Tom Barry is the founder. He's doing a great job. He's actually this week. It's a 501c3, so it's a nonprofit. So he does a lot of fundraising because in addition to having set up this network, he also provides financial support for fallen families of law enforcement. So this week, starting today, they're doing a bike ride from Miami to Daytona Beach. It's a 5-day bike ride. I think over 1,000 police officers are going to be participating. Our GPS tracking technology is going to be on a couple of those officers.
Cool.
So their families and all that can log on
Yeah,
and track
follow
and see
them,
where they are, because a lot of them can't obviously go down to
Right.
Florida and follow them during the 5 days. So anyway, last week was really great. We went to Patterson, New Jersey, met with Mayor Torres there. I got to speak in front of an audience of about 60 police officers. Again, promoting the Blue Alert Foundation and promoting Trust to Protect, and obviously working with CopSync hand in hand in order to really talk to the law enforcement agency about the tools that they provide and we provide to help better their policing. and help sharpen their ability to solve crimes or prevent crimes, and the whole gamut. Let's give them tools. I mean, I think you can appreciate that, right?
Yeah, I was, and Jarvis knows this. My nickname at the police department was Inspector Gadget. Remember the Inspector Gadget
Sure,
cartoon?
Sure.
Because I looked a little bit like Don Adams back in the day, and I could do his voice and stuff. But I had my first computer in 1984. I lugged it into the police station to do police reports, and the chief thought it was a nut job. Computers? What are you doing with the computer? What is that? And police departments do take a little longer to catch up to technology.
Yeah.
It's not for lack of trying. I think it's budgets, it's approval, it's culture, it's all those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we stay on this as police officers and evolve and go along kicking and screaming, but you got to adopt the technology. You got to use it because it's going to help you.
Yeah.
It's going to help you.
And that's really our message. And also, to get back a little bit to the Trust and Protect initiative, I feel that as a CEO of a technology company, it's our duty to develop technologies that will help the community and law enforcement in every which way we can. I mean, I really truly believe that we have to, in the private sector, help you guys. I mean, you're out there on the front lines helping us every day, keeping us safe. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're all doing a really good job of it. So all I can say is thank you. We really appreciate it. And if we can do anything to pay you guys back, that's our job. I look at it as like that's our obligation.
That's a great way to look at it. And it really is all about communication and reaching out to people and just talking. You talk it through and you talk to communities through it. If the police officers walked around and had one of these in their pocket and could pass it out to some family that needed it, that couldn't afford it, I mean, that's a win for everybody.
Yeah.
It's we got about 3 minutes, Travis? All right. So give me, if you can.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not asking you to hold me to any, special Costco price or anything, but what is a basic unit go for? What's a monthly fee? All that kind of stuff.
So it's $299 retail.
That's just like my vest over here, $299. It's great.
$299. Yeah,
and
just like the vest.
And this would have cost you like $1,000 5 years ago. It's amazing.
It could, well, not even because the technology just wasn't available to be that small and robust. So it's $299, and then
one pair of soles.
One pair, with the charger and everything.
Okay.
And then you get an app that's included.
Right.
And then there's a monthly service fee of roughly $30 a month. So it's $1 a day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's less than a cup of coffee.
Right.
It really is. And again, I don't like to spend anybody's money, and maybe $1 a day is a lot, but for most of the families we've talked to, if your loved one goes missing for even 5 minutes, during those 5 minutes you'll pay anything to get them back.
I think
that's what I've been told.
I think it's a very reasonable price, right? And I think if your family that's is a little on the less economically endowed side, I still think you can afford that. I'm thinking you have to afford it.
We give veterans, so we give veterans and law enforcement agencies a 10% discount.
Okay.
All right, so that we do. In certain states, California and Minneapolis, Minnesota, and there's about 4 or 5 states, New Jersey, I believe. There's some reimbursement codes that come from the state.
They're on insurance codes, reimbursement?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and like if I wanted to buy 1,000 of these for my military veterans home in Tacoma, Washington,
sure.
I can get discounts.
And we have wholesale pricing.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're the VA or if you're a large police institution and you want to come to us, we can obviously work out a wholesale
Now I don't
price.
see why, and I might be wrong about this, but I'm not sure why, because I started a police officer association back in the day. I had to go to the National Labor Board. I know all the ins and outs, and I'm not sure there's any reason I couldn't buy a bunch of these from you and sell them to raise money as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Or donate to the community. There's a lot of things,
Or we would bring in a nonprofit charitable organization to work side by side.
Yeah.
And we would donate, like we've donated pairs or we've donated the service. We'll work with the community. Again, there's millions of people out there that need this. Not everybody can afford it. So we'll do what we can to
figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, 1 minute, Mr. Jarvis. Did you learn something once again? Mr. Jarvis,
Always.
He's my canary in a coal mine. and every show he says, I did not know that, 99. That's amazing, right? Because it's interesting stuff. And I'm really up on technology. And when I saw this, I just thought, of course. It's a no-brainer. It's great.
It's one of those that, like, why didn't
Simple,
anybody think of
genius
it?
ideas.
It was
Exactly.
like I did, but I did.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Give us your website, how we can get a hold of you. all that kind of stuff.
Okay, it's Patrick Britannia. The name of the company is GTX Corp. The website is gtxcorp.com. And our product is the GPS SmartSole, and that website is GPS SmartSole.com. All one word, GPS SmartSole, SOLE.com.
Excellent. Time flew by. Patrick, thanks for coming on Security Guy
Chuck,
Radio.
thank you very much. It was really a pleasure.
Anytime you want to stop by, give us an update, just let us know. And, maybe you can call in the station one day and give us an update on some of these police initiatives that are going on across the country. Love to hear you.
Sure, I'd love to.
Until next week, tune in for another exciting adventure on Security Guy Radio every Monday night at 7. And remember, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Tumblr, Google, YouTube, SoundCloud, Pinterest, the girl's site, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spreaker, and now SecurityGuyRadio.com. Good night. See you next week.